Hey man, here is a little XO episode that two kind of stories that I don't think even really have any real thematic relationship to each other. But it's just, man, it takes me forever to finish episodes of this podcast. You know, I've been doing it for years and there's only like 40 episodes, but I've learned about myself, like what's the best, because I mean, I'll just pick away at episodes for fucking months. Like, I don't know, there's been ones that it's taken me over a year to do just because I just pick away at it here and there. And I think what works better for me creatively is just whatever is interesting to me today. Work on that today and don't care about whatever else. And, then it's fun to work on stuff. It doesn't feel like a job. So today, what's interesting to me today, firstly, is this story about Metallica. I was just online watching mostly Megadeth videos and some Anthrax stuff. Like, when I was growing up, a lot of my friends were into thrash metal, a lot of my friends were into Metallica, but I was way more into Megadeth and Anthrax. I don't know why. Metallica, like, everyone loves the shit out of them, and they just never quite stuck with me. Like, maybe I just have shitty taste. I don't know. I don't like Star Wars either, so what the fuck. But digging through this Megadeth stuff, Dave Mustaine from Megadeth was the original guitar guy from Metallica, so that led me into Metallica. And I found this clip of Metallica performing this song where their second bassist, Jason Newsted, he sings on it, and the mixing, for whatever reason, at this performance is all fucked up. So his vocals are way louder than James Hetfield's, and it's fucking awesome. It is so good. Like, this clip, it's worth going to look up. This dude is he's fucking metal as shit. Like, he is so hardcore. I'll play it before the segment starts. But then I found an interview with Jason Newsted, and he was talking about how Metallica was when he joined, where their original bass player, Cliff Burton, had died in an accident, in a tour bus crashing accident, and what it was like within Metallica at that time. And it was just such a great little story. Like, he had such a great way of explaining it. This weird little moment in time for this band that was already a really big band, but was about to become like the biggest band. And it's just, it's really good little story. So the interview that this is from has music playing in the background. So I can't really properly edit it together or do anything fancy with it, so I'm just going to play that clip straight up. So that's segment number 1. Metallica, after their first bass player had died unexpectedly when they were auditioning his replacement.
So let it be written, so let it be done. I'm searching by the chosen one. So let it be written, so let it be done. You killed the firstborn Pharaoh's son. I'm creeping in, yeah.
I suppose to talk about you entering Metallica, a lot is said about that period of time and the sad circumstances, but not a lot is really known about the actual rehearsal you had with those guys. How would you describe the vibe in the room at that time? Because when we've seen the bits of behind the music and things like that, where
it's edited.
Yeah. Like, how would you describe the vibe in the room when you walked in? Like, Jason from Flotsam and Jetsam walks in with his bass.
Because of the playing field that we found ourselves on, that an incredible, very special person, Jimi Hendrix of bass, in my opinion, was taken. And so, way too early. And his fate brought about my destiny. And that's it's tough ground to stand on. And it was very surreal to begin with, because Metallica is my favorite band, and I get a chance to go play with them. And so already I'm levitating, my head's spinning. It's just a crazy thing. In the room itself, in the building itself, was very tense and somber and a bit sad and those kind of things. And everybody was considerably inebriated. Like
well-oiled.
Yeah, I think that I auditioned maybe 27 or 28 days after Cliff actually was killed, probably 2 weeks after they spread his ashes up north in California. That I was actually in the room playing out of his amp. So it was a weird vibe, and they went to bed drinking, waking up drinking. It's just the way it was. They were trying to grieve and not knowing how to do 23 and 24-year-old men that had no idea or like really any kind of serious family structure within any of those persons' lives in order to build that kind of capacity where you could know what to do when it was time to grieve about something serious like this. Nobody had that. Nobody would have known about that or was taught that.
It was someone from their gang.
It was their teacher. Cliff was the one everybody else looked up to in that band. Every band has a person that they look up to.
Yeah.
Or the leader or the thing like that, the gifted one. He was the gifted one. Even amongst people like Hammett and Hetfield, he was still the gifted one. That's pretty heavy. And so he taught them a lot of things through time. And so to have that teacher and that great admired one taken away like that was pretty heavy. They didn't care about anybody else. I could have been made of freaking plutonium and walked in there and they wouldn't matter.
Right.
It just didn't matter. They didn't want anybody standing over there other than their boy.
Yeah.
And so, and the powers that be and the things that were going on, they're trying to keep the momentum going and the machine going and making up for Ozzy shows and all the things that were committed to, that had to be achieved or had to be resolved. They wanted to keep going. So you had to imagine how their heads were spinning, crazy, grieving, ugly, and trying to accept somebody for a second and see if even making a judgment of somebody that could play or not.
Yeah.
Some cats came in there that could play, But I got there first on the day the first day I auditioned. I got there first early in the morning. Before they got there, probably like 9 in the morning, and I waited all day. Lars wanted to have me play last. That was already his intention because he knew that I had, because of the things that we talked about, tape trading and correspondence throughout the world. When he reached out, see what was going on, my name come up with a lot of people, so he wanted to have me go last. So I waited and watched all the guys coming through the doors and come from the airport and get out of the airport, walk on with their bass, and look through the window and watch what James' reaction was to them. I had this little cubby hole dug out within their road cases. There's like Metallica cases all around me. But, cats would come in and out. People heard this story before, but it's really pretty crazy. I remember one guy, I don't know where he was from, but it's all the way from the East Coast, so he flew all the way across the United States from one side to the other to the Bay Area, water to water like that. And spent the whole day on the freaking plane. Brought his bass in, and he walks in, and because of his attire and his do and so forth, like fringe on the boots and 3-color hair and this kind of stuff.
Wow.
And Hetfield's already in like
strong look.
8 or 10 Coors Lights into the afternoon. And he looks over at this guy. He's like, next. Dude didn't even get to plug in. Dude, he flew all the way. He'd been losing sleep and trying to learn the songs, and his head's all coming over. He gets there, steps in the room, doesn't even get to plug in.
Brutal.
Has to turn right back out the door, go back and get on the plane and fly away.
Jeez.
That was a long flight home.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So there was a few of those things like that, and there was a couple cats that I thought did really good that didn't get called back. I was kind of surprised. I was fine with it, of course.
Yeah.
Surprised that they didn't get called back. So Troy Gregory and Les, I think, and myself, and one other guy, Willie Lang from Las Rocket, got called back. Halloween of '86, October 31, '86, I played the last show with Flotsam and Jetsam. And loaded my SVT and my rig and all my stuff into my old Ford truck and drove back to the Flotsam house where we all lived together and loaded the stuff back in there. Everybody knew I'd already joined Metallica at that time. Been asked to play with Metallica, not joined yet.
Right.
Been asked to play with Metallica. And we're all wearing black armbands for Cliff that night. And, load my gear in and out of the thing. 9 or 10 days later, sold out Budokan with Metallica. So it's like, I went from this to holy in about fast.
All right, segment number 2. The other thing I'm excited about today is Guillermo del Toro in general. Like, there are some people who I just love listening to interviews by, regardless of really how much I like the stuff they make, like people that just always have something smart to say. And Guillermo del Toro is definitely that way. Like, this guy, he's like the smartest dude in the world. It's ridiculous. Like, anytime I've ever heard him talk on any topic, he just hit the depth of his knowledge about just like weird old monster movies to Hitchcock to just philosophy and human. It's nuts. He knows everything about everything, and he's just like super fascinating to listen to. I feel like I should probably, he deserves like a bigger episode. Like, I should just spend a year just fucking listening to every word he ever said and compiling it. So maybe that'll come down the road somewhere. But for now, this is just this one interview that I found with him that has like no views on YouTube, just a tiny little interview, random thing from wherever, where he just talks a bit about his life and growing up. And it's really fucking cool because that guy is super great. And if you haven't seen Pan's Labyrinth, the movie is like mind-blowingly excellent. It is so fucking good. So, segment number 2, Guillermo del Toro.
So tell me what the link is, do you think, between your attraction to portraying childhood in these kinds of situations?
I had a horrible childhood emotionally. I was not a child that got like beaten or locked in a closet, but I really had a very intense, shall we say, very intense relationship with the horror of Catholic guilt and the Catholic dogma and, you know. My grandmother was a it was like Pepper Laurie in Carrie, you know.
Yes, yes.
So, you know, it was, I was like a chubby version of Carrie. and it was very difficult for me to get over that. And at the same time, I forged an alliance with the monsters when I was a kid. I jokingly say that I spent 40 years trying to recuperate from the first 8, but to a degree it's true. I mean, I really suffered intensely in the first 10 years of my life. I truly would cry at the concept of burning in hell, or the concept of purgatory and original sin, and Mexican Catholicism is very, very brutal and very, very gory. So that also affected me.
And your parents were devout?
No, my parents, no, but my mother, for a while in my life, she was an absent mother.
Right.
And my father was, like me, a workaholic. My dad, all the discipline I have for work, I got from my dad. At the same time, I didn't get a lot of my dad, you know. But so I lived most of my childhood. I spent with my grandmother,
Right.
and she was, you know, extreme, shall we say?
Sit back in my hell, camera shots and photographs, drunk and swear across the floor.
And I've heard a story about you reading Famous Monsters of Filmland, which was a magazine that was, I mean, beyond influential for me. We're the same age, so it was beyond influential for me. And it didn't go over well.
No. I mean, I learned to speak English by having a dictionary and reading Mad Magazine and Famous Monsters, and by reading the subtitles in Universal Monster movies, and learning what they were saying. So I literally was self-taught at a very early age because I wanted to know what the pictures said in the magazine. My grandmother really hated that. It was strange because on the one hand she bought the magazines for me. She really was a very doting woman. She was very loving, but one part of her was really, really damaged by religion. There's no other way of saying it. She'd love me, and she would buy me my comics and my monster comics, but she had a very hard relationship with that, and she would cry also, like, oh, you know, why do you like these things? And like I would do a monster in plasticine or draw it, and she would cry because it's not beautiful. But she did love me a lot, and I loved her. And it's the same thing that I say about my childhood, about my grandmother. As suffocating as the influence was in certain ways, I survived my childhood because I had her love, in a way, you know?
Don't know if I can take this anymore. Put your finger off the trigger. I've been to places that I'm not proud of. Hold fast your fingers on the trigger. Pull the sweat out of your brow. There are some things that you can't hide from. Don't know if I can take this anymore. Pull your finger off the trigger. I've been to places that I'm not proud of. Hold fast.
I look back at your body of work, and I mean, I think that's a theme that goes
It
through.
certainly is. It's part of Hellboy, part of Pan's Labyrinth, part of Devil's Backbone.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I think that we have nothing that has happened in the past has not affected our present. I believe that. I mean, everything that has happened in the past, everything. A guy dying in New Jersey without anyone knowing, it has affected who we are right now. And I do believe in everything being interconnected. And certainly in the bigger picture of history, you know, we still live under the shadow of the wars that we have waged. You know, the quote-unquote war on terror, the Vietnam War, the Spanish Civil War. So all these things are still hovering around us. And whatever injustice, whatever brutal act has been done in the past, it weighs on us.
Push
you talk a little bit about, in other interviews, you've talked a little bit about seeing death in a certain way because of your roots, because you're Mexican.
Yeah.
And you worked next door to a morgue for a while, so you saw bodies coming and going. You say that you've had a gun held to your head.
Yes.
People burned alive, stabbed, decapitated, all those kind of things. And you say Mexico is still a very violent place.
It is.
I guess that all figures into the work that you do. I mean, it's all. I'm just trying to paint a picture, I guess, of all the inspiration swirling around.
Let me put it this way: I abhor violence, but I think it's part of the human endeavor. You know, wherever we are is part of that, and I don't like it. I can handle it in fiction. I don't understand it very well in real life.
Right. I found a great quote from you. We're talking a lot about kids and childhood today, so I thought this might be interesting. You said, as a kid, I dreamed of having a house with secret passages and a room where it rained 24 hours a day. The point of being over 40 is to fulfill the desires you've been harboring since you were 7.
This is true.
And this is Bleak House that you're talking
it's now
about.
2 houses.
Well, explain, because I've seen the video. I've explained for people what Bleak House is.
What happened is 7 years ago, when I was hanging up, I used to have about half of my house, the family home, was occupied by my collection of stuff, and it was really, really getting to a hoarding point. You know, where you were moving between piles of books and stuff like that. So I was hanging a picture in the kitchen, and my wife said, "There's no way you're putting that picture near the kitchen where the kids go by every day." And I had a moment, and I realized, look, I'm 42 or 41, and I spent all my early years with my mother telling me what not to do, and now I'm married, and my wife is telling me what not to do, and I said, screw it, I'm buying a house, and I went and bought a house, and for me, away from the family home, and I said, oh, this is too ambitious. I'm never going to fill it up. And now I bought the house next door and expanded it. And it is a house. I do everything. I decorate it. I assemble the furniture. I place the books. I choose the framing on the pictures. I install the books. I install everything. And I don't trust anyone else to do it, first of all. But the house is now a vast collection of thousands and thousands of books, 7,000 movies, thousands of DVDs, thousands of collectibles, life-size statuary. There's bronzes in the garden. There's a life-size H.P. Lovecraft standing in the library looking at you when you enter. Almost the entire cast of Todd Browning's The Freaks is around the house, like looking at you.
In life-size.
Life-size. I commissioned them, and there's 2 great artists. One is called Thomas Kubler, and he's incredible, and Mike Hill, and they are amazing. You can Google them, and they do lifelike silicone and figures that look like the person. And so the house is populated by Boris Karloff as Frankenstein being made up by Jack Pierce. Right. A Frankenstein face, which you can Google. You can put Mike Hill Frankenstein, and you'll find it. It's about 8 feet tall, the face, and about 4 feet wide. And it hangs on the balcony of Bleak, looking at you from the balcony. I have Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein. I have Oliver Reed as the werewolf in Curse of the Werewolf, Leon, and secret passages. Secret doors behind paintings, a room where it rains 24 hours a day.
This landscape is flat. You never know how far out to go. You cannot turn back. Footprints are covered in the tracks of the past.
Can you imagine doing anything else? Or would it be possible for you to do anything else than what you do?
No, it's come to the point. It's come to the point now for me that, frankly, a lot of people are workaholics, which means they are basically escaping real life through their work in a dramatic, addictive way. I'm not a workaholic. I really live when I'm working. It's the only form of life I know. It's obviously I have my family life, which is very fulfilling and beautiful. But I'm saying, if you removed the storytelling and the filmmaking from it, I would crumble. I would not exist. They say that for the universe to come to you, you need to be standing still. You need to be not doing anything but being yourself. And I think that's true. I mean, you spend your youth, your 20s, and your 20s are particularly disoriented because you're hustling and bustling to get somewhere. And there's a point in which you just mercifully start relaxing in your own skin, and then just things happen. Some of them not good, some of them really great, but you understand that you are now you.
Guillermo, they're going to take you away from me.
All right.
Listen, I can't thank you enough.
We could have a coffee after.
All right, that was another episode of XO. Thank you for listening. I hope you liked it. You can go to keithcourage.com to find more of my stuff. Thank you very much.